What if I told you that your relentless pursuit of excellence is actually stealing your ability to feel satisfied? You finish a project that others call brilliant, but all you can see are the flaws. You achieve something significant, but instead of celebrating, you're already focused on what's next, what's missing, what could be better. You've been told that having high standards is admirable, that perfectionism shows dedication. But here's what nobody talks about. Perfectionism isn't making you excellent. It's making you miserable. Think about the last time you genuinely felt proud of something you accomplished. Can you even remember? Or has it been so long since you allowed yourself that feeling that it seems foreign, almost selfish? There's something happening in your mind that's more destructive than failure, more paralyzing than fear, and more isolating than rejection. It's the invisible error that's stealing your satisfaction. You've confused excellence with perfection, and in doing so, you've turned every achievement into evidence of what you didn't do well enough. Most people don't realize they're trapped in what I call the joy-killing cycle of perfectionism. They think they're being conscientious, thorough, committed to quality. But what's really happening is much more heartbreaking. They're polishing a diamond until it turns to dust, destroying the very thing they're trying to perfect. You see, perfectionism operates on a cruel lie, that your worth is measured by flawless execution. It whispers that if something isn't perfect, it's worthless. If you're not the best, you're failing. If there's room for improvement, then what you've done doesn't count. But here's the truth that perfectionism doesn't want you to know. Excellence and perfection are not the same thing. Excellence is about doing your best with what you have, where you are, right now. Perfection is about an impossible standard that moves further away every time you get closer.
I learned this lesson from a master craftsman who taught woodworking. I spent weeks on a single piece, sanding every surface until it was mirror smooth, obsessing over invisible imperfections. When I finally showed it to him, he ran his weathered hands across the wood and said, "Beautiful work. But tell me, can you see the life in it?" I didn't understand. He pointed to a small knot in the grain, a natural imperfection I'd tried to hide. "That's what makes it real," he said. "Perfect wood isn't wood at all. It's plastic." That's when I understood. Perfectionism isn't about creating something beautiful. It's about creating something that can't be criticized. And in that desperate attempt to avoid judgment, we often create something that can't be loved either. The first technique that can free you from this prison is what I call good enough awareness. This isn't about lowering your standards or accepting mediocrity. It's about recognizing when something serves its purpose well, even if it's not flawless. Here's how it works. Before you start any task, define what good enough looks like for that specific situation. Not perfect, not mediocre, but functionally excellent. For an email to a colleague, good enough might mean clear, respectful, and actionable. For a presentation, it might mean informative, engaging, and well-organized. For a home-cooked meal, it might mean nutritious, tasty, and shared with people you care about. The key is to celebrate when you reach good enough instead of immediately looking for what's wrong. This isn't about being satisfied with less. It's about being satisfied with what serves the purpose. But here's where it gets deeper. Perfectionism isn't just about work or projects. It's about how you relate to yourself. You've probably spent so much time focusing on your flaws, your mistakes, your areas for improvement, that you've forgotten how to see your own progress. When was the last time you acknowledged how far you've come?
When did you last give yourself credit for showing up, for trying, for caring enough to want to do well? Perfectionism makes you fluent in self-criticism, but illiterate in self-compassion. There's a psychological concept called hedonic adaptation, the tendency for positive emotions to fade quickly as we adapt to new circumstances. You achieve something you've been working toward, feel good for a moment, then it becomes your new normal. Perfectionism accelerates this process by training you to dismiss your achievements before you've even experienced them. I remember a client who got promoted to a position she'd wanted for years. Instead of celebrating, she immediately started worrying about whether she deserved it, whether she'd be good enough, whether people would discover she wasn't as qualified as they thought. She turned one of the best moments of her career into a source of anxiety. This is what perfectionism does. It hijacks your victories and turns them into evidence of future failure. The second technique is what I call progress celebration. This is a practice of intentionally acknowledging movement forward even when the destination isn't reached. Here's how to do it. At the end of each day, identify one thing you did that moved you closer to a goal, solved a problem, or made someone's life a little better. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. Maybe you had a difficult conversation you'd been avoiding. Maybe you finished a task that was hanging over your head. Maybe you took a walk when you felt overwhelmed. Write it down. Say it out loud. Let yourself feel proud of it for 30 seconds before moving on to what's next. This isn't about false positivity or participation trophies. It's about training your brain to notice progress, not just problems. It's about becoming fluent in your own growth.
Seneca, the Roman philosopher, wrote something that changed how I think about this. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Perfectionism is one of the most sophisticated ways we waste our lives. We waste time perfecting things that are already good enough. We waste energy on problems that don't matter. We waste joy by focusing on what's missing instead of what's present. But here's what's really happening when you're stuck in perfectionism. You're living in a constant state of not yet good enough, not yet ready, not yet worthy of satisfaction. You're postponing contentment until some future moment when everything aligns perfectly. But that moment never comes. Because perfectionism isn't a destination, it's a moving target designed to keep you running forever. The most liberating realization you can have is this. You don't have to earn the right to feel good about your efforts. You don't have to achieve perfection to deserve satisfaction. You don't have to wait for flawless execution to celebrate your progress. Think about the people you admire most. Are they perfect, or are they courageously imperfect? Are they flawless, or are they authentic? Are they without mistakes, or are they learning from their mistakes? The people who inspire us aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail beautifully, learn quickly, and keep moving forward. They're the ones who understand that excellence is not about being perfect. It's about being real. So here's what I want you to consider. What if your imperfections aren't flaws to be fixed, but features to be appreciated?
What if your struggles aren't evidence of weakness, but proof of your humanity? What if your progress, however imperfect, is exactly what someone else needs to see to believe in their own? You are not a project to be perfected, you are a person to be lived. Your worth is not determined by your output. Your value is not measured by your achievements. Your life is not a draft waiting for a final version. Right now, in this moment, with all your imperfections and unfinished projects and half-realized dreams, you are enough. Not because you've achieved some impossible standard, but because you're here. You're trying. You're growing. What would change in your life if you believed that? What would you create if you weren't afraid of it being imperfect? What would you share if you weren't waiting for it to be flawless? Your joy isn't waiting for your permission to be perfect, it's waiting for your courage to be present. Comment below and tell me, what's one achievement you've been dismissing that actually deserves celebration? Let's practice seeing our progress through kinder eyes.